anyone have, does anyone have a question they would like to ask? Does anyone have a question? You know, we live in a world where everything has to be instant. I mean, you go on the computer, the internet, you know, no matter how fast it is, it always has to be faster. And it's almost like everything in life. I mean, greatest amount of food that's served in the world is in the fast food industry, you know, where people are just being served garbage. And I think that this is really an important thing to remember, because a spiritual life is a different kind of process. I mean, it's not an instant, you know, enlightenment. It takes time. It takes work. It takes patience. And it takes really having the courage to overcome all the blocks in oneself that keep one from getting to God. You know, this really is an important thing to remember, because without patience, and you know, and with this thing inside us that is so, you know, wanting everything to be instant, you know, without having patience, this doesn't work. You know, in many ways, it's a lifetime's work in order to attain a state of enlightenment. But one has to work at it. You can't say, well, I have a lifetime to do it, and 2 days before you die, you decide to do deep spiritual practice. It's something that has to be worked on every day. It's something that has to be nurtured. It has to be mulched. It has to be taken care of the same way you take care of an organic garden. You know, the same way you're supposed to take care of your physical health. You know, it has to be nurtured that way, and patiently, you know, allowing time to work for us. Usually time is like a deadly enemy. People are so frightened of getting older, of dying, and all this kind of stuff. But when you do deep spiritual practice, time becomes a friend. And you recognize that within the time that we're allotted, this miracle, this kind of holiness that we're allotted, you know, we can build a system that will enable us to have a connection with God, enable us to have a spiritual life. It's something that, you know, I could never understand, but is missing in the world. I mean, you know, back in the Renaissance, if you wanted to be a painter, you know, you go to a studio of Verrocchio or Leonardo or one of these great masters, and it would take years before you'd even put paint on a canvas. You know, you'd have to learn how to mix paint and make canvas and make gesso and make all of these things. You'd spend the first 6 months just cleaning out the master's toilet, just to see if you really have enough of a need to stay with it to truly learn what the master has to teach. You know, in our world today, we want everything instantly. You know, instant mastership, instant, professionalism, instead of taking it a step at a time, gradually building a system, learning how to use all the tools, learning how to develop a chakra system, and having patience with oneself. Because without that, it's something I always say. There's only one thing I can guarantee in this world, that everybody gets older, and it depends on what you bring with age to whether or not you will develop a spiritual life inside yourself. And if you approach it that way, time becomes a friend, because time gives you the opportunity to recognize every single block within yourself that is keeping you from having a spiritual life. And I think this is an important thing to learn. I mean, I always say it, Rudy said it, and better than anyone else I ever heard. It takes 9 months to have a baby. If you have a baby in 3 months, it's going to be a miscarriage. It takes 1 second to die. And this is really true. I mean, if you want, if you think you have a spiritual life before you're ready, you're basically miscarriaging the process. You're not giving your system enough time to truly develop an inner life. And the more that inner life develops, the deeper the need goes inside a human being, which gives you a greater capacity to literally overcome anything. Nothing remains an excuse to keep you from truly getting to God. I mean, this is very important stuff to learn. It took me years to learn this, because when I was younger, I was very impatient. I thought everything would happen immediately. And then one day, Rudy told me, he looked at me with a smile on his face, and how long have you been doing this? I said, 6 months. He said, Stuart, I've been doing this 36 years, and it registered in me the amount of time it takes to truly master oneself. Now, it doesn't take 36 years, but the more you do it and the longer you work at it, the greater your capacity becomes to transform all the tension, the anxiety, the problems that really drive people crazy into a spiritual life. Does anyone have a question they would like to ask? I hope it's clear what I'm talking about.
It's 2 o'clock.
Because, it took many years for me to learn how to have that kind of patience with people, with myself, with all the nonsense that goes on in the world, the politics, the economics, the families, all the things that one has to deal with to get through life. And then not only to have patience with them, but to learn how to use them to get closer to my spiritual enlightenment. They were no longer great mountains that interfered, They were really opportunities to grow and to learn how to use all these things to grow instead of allowing these things to interfere with the spiritual process. So there are no more excuses. You understand? Everything is a reason to grow. Everything is a reason to develop in yourself. Does anyone have a question they would like to ask? I mean, I think this is really an important subject because it goes right to our humanity. It goes right to all the excuses we use in our life to keep from truly becoming a child of God. I mean, we're a child of God anyway, but to become a conscious child of God, now that is crossing the void, to do it consciously. takes patience, takes a great deal of inner development. Does anyone have a question they would like to ask? And then then we learn to use this sacred element of time consciously. We don't just, if you'll pardon my Bronxese, piss it away, just throw it away. It becomes something used consciously. So that every moment, whether we're eating, walking, sleeping, it becomes sacred. Only because we have built a system inside ourselves that is truly recognizes how sacred all these different aspects of life are. So it's not just spacing out on cosmic energy. It's recognizing that life itself is the temple of learning. It's the great university life of learning. And this university of life has many different departments. And every one of them has a purpose, and that is to teach us how to get closer to our spiritual enlightenment, each in their own way, in a different way.
I have a question, Stuart.
Yes.
What do you think is the connection between discipline and letting go?
Well, you can't honestly let go of anything unless you have discipline inside. By discipline, I don't mean that you put on some kind of crazy uniform. The discipline can't come from out there. It has to come from inside. And what is the discipline? Getting grounded in the third chakra, keeping the heart open, being rooted inside yourself so that you have real discipline and clarity about choice that you make in your daily life. That's where the discipline has to come from. If you try to discipline people by rules and regulations and laws and this and that, all you do is create a society of rebellious people because it's anti the organic nature of you. But if people get that internal discipline, you understand, they're not going to hurt anybody. Their hearts are open. There's love. There's the joy of communicating with others. It's a whole different way of getting discipline, but it's a real way of getting discipline. So, in our world, the discipline is usually from the outside in. And it's the exact opposite if it's going to be real. It has to come from the inside out. And once you have that discipline, your choices will become much more conscious. You can keep your heart open. You can live with love and compassion. You're not intimidated by all the nonsense of the world. That's real discipline.
But then if you're like letting go, you are not letting go of the discipline, no?
Well, the discipline is the discipline is an organic thing that you build in yourself. And then you have all the stuff that you need to let go of, and you can consciously let go of it. You don't have to let go of the discipline. The discipline gives you the strength to be able to let go of all of these boundaries and, things that keep you from being happy, from functioning here like a conscious human being. So having that discipline is the key. But how do you have that discipline? You simply have to build it in yourself. And it just becomes organic to your nature. And it's a really healthy thing to build inside yourself. That's organic to your nature. And then the blocks, the tensions, the anger, the fear, the insecurity, all of that can go. And you're rooted inside and connected to God, to spirit, to higher energy. And that energy gives you the strength also to let go of all of these problematic things inside a human being that keep them from having a spirit, just being a happy person. Forget about a spiritual life. Being disciplined doesn't mean that you're unhappy. In fact, having rootedness and being centered inside allows your heart to open without fear. It allows you to communicate with people in a more direct, open, honest way, to be able to see what's real in the world, what's an illusion in the world, and make your choices about how you want to live accordingly. But that discipline, once again, it has to be from inside out, not from outside in. What I try to do is to build every one of you so that you can develop that internal discipline that enables the chakra system to get strong and for your life on every level to develop. And you can let go of all the fear, the insecurity, the problems, that block that process from taking place. And it's not an easy battle because from the earliest age, we're taught that external discipline, our parents discipline us. They put us in little uniforms when we're younger, so we function a certain way. We have certain religious beliefs. We have certain, the discipline is always from the outside in. But to truly get discipline, it's got to come from the inside out. Does anyone else have a question you would like to ask? I hope this is clear. This is a wonderful thing to really develop in oneself. And again, to get that kind of discipline, you also have to have patience. It doesn't come in the blinking of an eye. It comes because you do the inner work. Okay, if there are no more questions, then there'll be a class on Tuesday, and I'm looking forward to seeing everybody. And God bless you, and thank you again for being here, look, I talk and I learn, and this is very vital. Sometimes I wonder how people disappear. People really disappear from this. People who tell me, I love you, what you've taught is the greatest, blah, 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 and then they vanish. And then I realize, for a rose bush to grow and be healthy, it has to be pruned. For this meditation group to grow and be healthy, it will be pruned. People will come and go and then you get down to a strong nucleus of people that really are here for a spiritual life. And then on that nucleus, new people can come and, and the thing can grow. So it was a very important thing. I learned this years ago, and it's something that, made me stop wondering why people disappear. It's just, the way the work goes and the way life is. People come and go. But you're not stuck. We're left with a nucleus of people that really is strong. And that nucleus can produce you know, and help to nurture other people when they come. So it's all part of the process. And I'm very grateful for this process because I see people growing in front of me and I couldn't ask for more. Okay, if there are no more questions, then God bless you all. And I will see you all on Tuesday. Thank you. Bless you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.